Hi, and welcome back to week 4, the last week of your Finding Your Inner Guide, using your emotional intelligence to cure bad moods and lead your best life. So welcome. I feel a bit sad that it's the last one. My name's Julie Leoni. I'm a life coach and I teach psychology. I work in schools and organisations teaching emotional literacy and well-being and coaching. I started meditating when I was 25, when I went to India, and I teach yoga. And this is a work in progress for me, as with everybody. So there's certainly times when I don't use emotions appropriately, but I'm learning more and more each day to use them to help me steer. So this is week 4. In week 1, we looked very much at your family patterns and how your inherited family scripts can affect how you experience and how you think about your emotions. And then in week 2, we started to think about where you feel emotions in your body, getting better at labeling your own emotions so that you can express them. And we also did some grounding and meditation exercises to deal with overwhelming emotions. And then last week we were looking at relational aspects of emotions. Now this final week is looking at the link between how we think and our emotions. So there's a lot of research that how we think affects how we feel. So there's a guy called Albert Ellis who's a cognitive psychologist who was really bonkers. You can check him out on YouTube if you want to. And he said that what happens in life is we tend to think that the event that happens, that he calls the activating event. So let's just say I was driving to work and I got stuck behind a car and I was late for work. And then I get into work feeling really stressed. We tend to think that that traffic jam is what has caused my stress. But Albert Ellis said, no, that's wrong. It's our beliefs, our B, that causes the stress. So if I'm driving to work, get stuck in a traffic jam and I think, oh my God, I'm going to be late. Everybody's going to be so cross. The work will be piling up. I'll have emails. It's going to be a disaster. Then obviously I'm going to get into work feeling really stressed. But if I drive into work, I get stuck in the same traffic jam, but I think, there's nothing I can do. I'll call ahead. I might be able to answer some emails or make some phone calls from here. If not, I'm just going to kick back, listen to the music. There's nothing I can do. I'm safe, I'm warm, I'm well. I'll get there eventually and sort it out. But then I'm going to arrive in a better state. So our emotions affecting our thoughts affecting our emotions. So that's an exercise you might want to try the next time you're stressed, is to just, when you've caught yourself, press pause and think, okay, what am I thinking about this? And Alice talked about the way that we use the word should. I should have been better, or I should have done that differently, or they should have smiled at me when I said hello. And because we use the word should, it's not what happened. If we use the word should, what that's immediately telling us is that we want something that didn't happen. And that's what causes tension, and that's what makes us unhappy. So if you catch yourself thinking, oh, whoever it was at home should have put the bins out, the reality is clearly they haven't. There's a gap between the reality and what you want. So what are you going to do about that? So having that clear conversation, can you put the bins out on a Tuesday? Can you set your alarm so that you do that? Because I've noticed that I'm feeling cross because you've crossed a boundary, and asking about that, doing something with it rather than just having that frustration of should without actually engaging with reality. Now there's lots and lots of tools in the work that I've put together for you. And one of them, again, is not my tool, but it's lovely. I love it. So Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. Joseph Campbell was really interested in stories around the world, myths, legends, and what he identified was this journey that we go through. Now, we started this course talking about how some of you may have experienced childhood trauma or even subsequent trauma in relationship, where you've had an experience, either a loss or an event which has somehow scarred you. And I do suggest that you go and get some therapy to work that through. But a really lovely tool for all of us, because we've all had things in our life which have marked us and scarred us, which have been different from how we would like them to have been, is to work with this hero's journey. And the basic outline is that life is carrying on as normal, and then something happens, and we're called into the dark world. So either a relationship which is destructive, or maybe a really tough time at work, or a loss of some sort. So we're called into the dark world, the unknown world, where we've never been before. We've never had that experience before. And so we feel lost, and we feel overwhelmed, and we feel frightened. And then Campbell identified that what happens is that there will be kind of the baddies in there, the people that want to take advantage or trip us up or are being mean to us. But there will also always be our guardian angels. There will be the people who helped us, or just incidental people, the lady that was nice to you on the bus on the day when you'd had a rotten day and she was really kind to you. So those kind of guardian angel people turn up. And I tracking your lived experience against this model, because right at the bottom of the circle is the hard bit, the dark bit. So the moments when you just felt like you were never going to survive, like you couldn't get through this. And what Campbell said is that in all myths and all stories, this is where we discover the jewel, and the jewel is within us. It's the qualities that we find within us in those dark times. So even whether it's courage, just to keep going, getting up the next day, feeding the kids, going to work, or resilience, or fierceness, that we decided we weren't going to put up with it. So this is the real work. What did you learn from those hard emotional experiences about yourself? What qualities did you develop? What skills did you develop? What strengths did you find that you had that you just never knew that you had? Because then what starts to happen is that we have to re-enter the real world, come back to the known world. So we start to make that journey. So think about how you got yourself out of that situation. Again, people might have helped you might have had to do it all on your own, people might have tried to trip you up. As you come back into the known world, then Campbell says that you've got your jewel, what you've learned, what your strengths, but actually now what you need to do is share it with the world. So just for a moment there, who might benefit from your story? Who could you tell your story to? Right now, there might be somebody in your life that's going through an experience that you've had the experience of. And actually, if you use that model of the experience, then it can be a really nurturing and healing way for you to think about your emotions, but also for that other person. So that's kind of heavy work. A fun piece of work to do is to think about the part of your brain that we all have, and I know that because I work with so many people and we all have it, and that's the part of our brain that we sometimes call the inner critic. And the inner critic is full of negativity, and this part of your mind is really mean to you. It speaks to you in a way that you would never speak to anyone else. It's the part of your brain that says you're stupid, you're useless, you're pathetic, you shouldn't have done that. It's really, really, really mean. And it's often the part of our brain which makes our feelings feel sad, miserable, hopeless, depressed, lonely. Nobody will ever like you. And one of the ways to work with this is to start to name those thoughts. Now, Aaron Beck talked about them as negative automatic thoughts. And what I've noticed over my time of working with people is we all have the same ones. And what they boil down to is you're not good enough and you're not lovable. So welcome to the club. I've got those too. But they're not all of our brain. So a way of working with that is to start to notice those negative automatic thoughts and to start to find your own image for your inner critic. So when I've done this with clients before, someone came up with Stinky Pete, someone from Toy Story, someone had Cruella de Vil, some people just have a black squiggle that represents, it's a visual representation of all that negativity. And then what we do, and you might want to do this too, is grab a piece of paper and draw that or cut it out and stick it on. And then every time you hear a negative thought about yourself, write it down in speech bubbles for that character. You're stupid, nobody likes you. So that when you're in a situation where you think, oh, I'd really like to go out with that lot from work, but I've got this inner critic in my head going, nobody will like you, you won't know what to say. You can visualize that as Cruella de Vil and think, right, Cruella, thanks for all that. But actually, I don't need to listen to that, because then what we're also going to do is to start to tune into your inner wisdom. So if you've done Joseph Campbell's journey, you will know that you've got this strength, these jewels that you'll have learned from all your hard experiences. But also start to think of a character in a movie or a film who represents wisdom for you. So for me, it's Gandalf or Dumbledore, the wizards and the witches. But it might also be a celebrity or a writer. Maya Angelou is another one of my people that I hold in my head as a wise person. So either create a character or think of a character or a real person who represents wisdom to you. And when you've got Cruella de Vil telling you all the negative stuff, just start to tune in and think, what would Maya Angelou say here? What would Alice Walker say? What would Gandalf say to me here? And actually, what would my wiser self say? Because then you get to choose. And what tends to happen is that once we've got Maya Angelou battling Cruella de Vil, actually Maya Angelou wins hands down, because the negative voices in our head are repetitive, negative, they're not rational, they're not reasonable. Whereas a wiser self can say, hang on, what about this? What about that? Can find counter evidence, can remind us of times when, of course, you can go to the pub, you get on with them brilliantly. Or if you're a bit nervous, that's okay, you can leave, drive, so you can come home again. So creating these two characters are ways of working with that negative automatic thought to alleviate the negative feelings that we might have of shame or guilt or not being good enough, so that we can start to behave differently. Of course, when we get to the pub, when we overcome those nerves and we have a nice time, then that boosts our wise self and makes this part smaller. So this is the last session and it feels a bit sad. Thank you so much to Psychologies magazine for asking me to do this. Working with emotions for me has been the most transformative piece of work. I work with people a lot with depression and anxiety, and obviously there is a time in your life where there might be a biological reason why you're feeling miserable and your serotonin levels may be low. So not everything can be made better by doing this kind of work. So I really invite you to go to a doctor if you've been feeling miserable for a while, or to go to a therapist, and to know that that's completely all right. You know, you wouldn't try and cure diabetes by just talking about it. You'd actually have to take action about it. So please don't just sit here. If you're suffering and you've done these tools and you think, I still feel miserable, go and get help from your doctor or from a therapist. If for most of us, there are things that we can do to really take control of our positive emotions. That if we focus on what's miserable, what's not working, then that's what we'll get. If we focus on what we enjoy, the people we enjoy, and the things that are going well, that's what we'll get. So the last tool is to really just spend some time, last thing at day, last thing at night, writing down all the things that you appreciate, all the things that you enjoy, all the things that you've done well, the things that you're proud of. So the appreciations could be things in the outside world, like, oh, I'm glad it's been sunny today. Proud of the fact that I showed up and watched this video and I've done a few of the tasks, even though it was a really busy day. I'm grateful to that person. I appreciate that I've got enough food, that my house is warm, that I've got a bed to sleep in tonight. And the more we practice this, if we do this every night just for 5 minutes, it doesn't have to be loads, just jot it down, then actually what we're doing is we're training our brain to notice the things and the people and the sensations that feed us and nurture us, so we can notice those, do more of those, spend more time with those people, so that we can really start to immunize ourselves and boost our immunity against the kind of things that are for everyone going to be difficult. Life is never smooth and emotions will always come and go, but they are our friends. They're here to guide us. When it's feeling good, it's a sign that we're doing the right thing. When it's not feeling so good, we know that things have to change, and sometimes we don't know how, and that's when we reach out for help. So there's so much more to say, but I am going to stop there. My name's Julie Leoni. My website is julieleoni.com. There's 3 books on there you might be interested in. One on domestic abuse, one on how to tune into your inner wisdom, love being me, and 6 steps to relationship recovery. It's got a lot of these tools and exercises in. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for listening and watching. Bye.